Now, before we get into the rest of today's show, I do want to give a quick thank you to today's fantastic sponsor, Bespoke Post. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering amazing boxes of top shelf goods from under-the-radar brands, and it's free to join. That's fantastic. Every month, they introduce their members to cool new products, outdoor gear, barware, home and kitchen goods, clothing, and more. Even live oysters. Look, I'm over in Europe, so they don't ship those out because they'd be horrible by the time they arrive to me and they'd be like, what is this? But they give me a bunch of other cool stuff as well. Also, what's important is it costs only $45 for a box. It contains around $70 in retail value, which is obviously a great deal. You can also preview your box before it's shipped, so you can see what's going to be inside and you can decide if A, you want to keep it, B, you want to swap it out for a different box, or C, skip the month entirely for no charge. You only pay for what you want. So this isn't some subscription service where you sign up and then they're sending you a bunch of crap you don't want every month. You get to see it. Kind of does ruin the surprise a little bit, I suppose. But then you only get stuff you actually like, which is, at least in my mind, that's obviously better. So what have I been saying recently? Well, the first thing is copper. And this, can you see that? Well, basically, it comes with these 2 copper mugs, which are fantastic. They're, obviously, if you didn't know, they're for Moscow mules. It comes with this ginger syrup, and you pour that in there, you make a Moscow mule. It doesn't actually say on this card how to make the Moscow mule, which I find unusual, but maybe it's some legal thing about not doing alcohol. But anyway, it's going to be with alcohol, and you put your ice in here. This is all provided, by the way, and it comes with a mallet. So you smash up the ice in the bag, and then the canvas stuff absorbs the extra water so it doesn't water down your drink. Put it in the the copper cups, and make yourself up a Moscow mule. Also, they sent me a cleaver, part of the carnivore package, and Jen inserts a B-roll of me absolutely slaying a chicken, not a live chicken. I'm just butchering up a chicken, which I spatchcocked. There's some B-roll of that from me at home. Jen, roll it! And I also got their fillet package, which contained another couple of knives. Again, Jen, there is B-roll for that, so get it going. And then finally, the one I haven't actually tried yet is this. Sorry, you can't hear me. This giant, what does it say there? Beer making kit. Now, I've had beer making kits before, but they've never been this big. Normally, you get kind of this little box and, you know, you make up like 3 beers or something. Look at this absolute beast of a thing that comes with it. And also, this stuff, the beer making mix. Plus a bottle cap putter on a thing and all of this great stuff. Like I say, I haven't quite tried that one yet, but I'm excited about it. So look, you can get 20% off your first box by clicking the link in the description below and entering the code criminalist20 at checkout, or go to bspk.me/criminalist20. So thank you to Bespoke Post, and back to today's video. Hello everybody, welcome back to another brand new, hot off the presses episode of The Casual Criminalist. I am your host, Simon. What happens here is Callum, the writer for this channel / podcast, I just refer to it as a show, has written me a nice hefty script on the disappearance of the Jamison family. I've never heard of this. What happens? This is what people have described in the comments and the reviews, which you can leave if you're listening to this as a podcast. If you're watching it on YouTube, you'll be like, what is a YouTube review, Simon? That's not a thing. Well, leave a nice comment or a thumbs up. I think they call it a like. Do that, and then we're going to dive into it. Oh, also, thank you to Jen, the editor for this channel, who adds the music and the videos if you watch this, the sounds if you don't. Brilliant. Let's, enough waffling. Did I say to leave a review? That would be nice. Let's go. According to a 2020 report from the FBI, there are currently somewhere around 87,500 active missing person cases in the US. That feels surprisingly low. Aren't there like 300 million people in the US? And I feel like a lot of missing people are just people who are like, yeah, just my life, I'm out. You know, I feel like most people who go missing, it's like the extreme version of the midlife crisis where a dude's like, it, I'm off. I'm just out. I'm going to go start a new life somewhere else and disappear. 87,000 sounds low. Anyway, add in the rest of the world and that number will be in the multiple millions. That's a hell of a lot of people, and statistically there's a semi-decent chance that 1 or 2 of them might be listening right now. And in that case, please call home. everybody's worried about you. That is absolutely true. There are for sure people who just abandon their lives listening to this podcast. Hello. You want to write me an email? Tell me what that's like. Don't do that, please. I don't want to hear from you. The vast majority, around 80% of those, that makes me... I mean, you could write in. I don't think... There's a contact form on the website. I think people suggest tons of options. And if I like them, I sometimes pass them off to Callum. But mostly I just let Callum choose his own stuff because he's really good at it. The vast majority, around 80% of these cases, wrap up within 24 hours, with when the person stumbles up to the front step with a raging hangover, or the teenage runaway is brought back home by the police. However, a small percentage of them disappear forever, never to be seen again. And they're the ones who show up on this show. This is not one of those cases. Today's story does revolve around a mysterious disappearance, but one which only gets more confusing after the missing people were eventually found. Things begin simply enough when a family of 3 go missing on a trip into the Oklahoman mountains. But from there, the case spirals out into one of the most bizarre networks of speculation that you're ever likely to find. Witchcraft, Satanism, meth gangs, neo-Nazis. This is very exciting so far. I mean, the Satanist meth gang. Jesus. Let's see if we can't extract a bit of sense from all of this madness as we take a deep dive into the mystery of the Jamison family disappearance. Meet the Jamesons. The Jamison family was made up of 44-year-old father Bobby, 44-year-old mum Sherilyn, and little Madison, who was... And by the way, they're all spelling their names weird. Like Sherilyn with a Y, Madison with a Y. Is that okay? I mean, I feel like we've made it there with Brian with a Y, but are we really there with Madison with a Y? I've never seen this before. It was just 6 years old back in 2009. Oh, and Maisie, the dog, of course, Madison's beloved pet. To any stranger on the street, this lot appeared to be a perfectly normal Oklahoman family. They went to church, they enjoyed spending time in nature, and they generally just kept to themselves. The family made a home for themselves in the small lakeside town of, oh my god, America, your place names, Eufaula. And I know people are always like, Simon, have you ever been to the UK? Your place names are a joke. Leicester Square? What is this? It's spelled like Leicester. What's going... I know, the UK's worse, but still America. Come on, Eufaula? It just doesn't look right. A couple of hours from Oklahoma City. It's your typical rural American town with just short of 3,000 people and not much going on. But even that was too noisy for the Jamesons. Bobby and Sherilyn dreamed of living in total peace and quiet on a 40-acre plot of land off in the mountains. The only problem was that they would only have enough money to buy the land itself, not to build a house on top of it. Well, that is a problem. I mean, you're not going to be able to camp forever. Bobby suffered from chronic back pain after a car wreck in 2003, and the couple were barely scraping by on disability benefits. To add to their financial worries, they were currently involved in a lawsuit against his own father for their fair share of a property sale. Your life sounds complicated, and you sound too poor to be involved in a lawsuit against your own family. Also, 40 acres of land? America, you have so much space. If someone lives on 40 acres of land in Europe, you're like, you are rich. Their temporary solution was a long, rusted red shipping container, oh my, which sat outside on their Eufaula. I mean, it's not camping, but is living in a shipping container any better? It sounds like, the journey of an illegal... It's like people who live in shipping containers, this family, and people being the victims of people smuggling. They planned on moving that up the mountains and just living inside it in the meantime, because apparently they stopped watching Into the Wild after the first 30 minutes. That's a great movie, by the way. If you haven't seen it, I mean, we kind of just spoiled the end there. It doesn't end well. It's definitely worth watching. It's got that guy who kind of reminds me of Shia LaBeouf in it, but is definitely not Shia LaBeouf. As you probably guessed, the Jamesons were eccentric, to say the least. Not many people knew about these plans, but that was just the way it was with this couple. They were so private that even their nearest and dearest rarely knew what was going on in their lives, except for their dad, who very much was aware of the lawsuit against him. So when they pulled Madison out of school completely in October 2009, nobody thought anything of it. On October the 8th, they loaded up their car with gear and their beloved dog Macy and set out on an expedition into the mountains to scout out their new home. The family often disappeared for days. Scout out their new home? Don't you have to, you did buy the land, right? Didn't you do the scouting before that? Or I guess 40 acres is a lot of property to scout out. But I don't know. The family often disappeared for days at a time without explanation, looking to disconnect from the world completely. But then the weekend came and went with no news, then a full week, and it seems like they're just vanished without a trace. I get it though. Like, I live in the city, and the desire to live in the country, I'm like, it's so quiet out there. It's so peaceful. There's just like the sound of the wind through the trees. I think because I grew up in the countryside. I mean, I like living in the city because it's convenient, because you got like Uber Eats and everything you could ever need and friends. But also living in the country, I'm like, yeah, it'd be nice. Just so much space. It's so quiet. But my wife definitely prefers living in the city. So, you know, I like living in the city. You know, I mean, I'm happy to. The car. When the missing person report came in, there wasn't yet any reason for Sheriff Israel Beauchamp to think anything was wrong. People ran away from their old lives all the time, and those left behind always said, there's no way they would do that. Yeah. Perhaps the Jamesons just found the perfect patch of nowhere and decided to start their new life. But then came another call, which changed everything. On October the 16th, just a little over a week after the disappearance, a group of hunters on dirt bikes found a little dog starving to death inside a white truck parked up by an old oil well site. Hunting on dirt bikes, I feel, is just... I can't think... I'm struggling to think of anything more American other than like maybe eating McDonald's sat by the Statue of Liberty. They had passed by the car earlier that week and thought nothing of it, but after seeing it abandoned for days on the mountainside, they decided to investigate. The little dog was, of course, Maisie. The poor pup was at death's door, having been left to starve for an entire week. Sheriff Beauchamp and his men came to smash the window and save her, later saying, the dog was eating its own feces to stay alive. Oh my god. Oh my god, no. Why would anyone leave their family pet like that? It doesn't make sense. Then again, nothing seems to make sense about this case. Why indeed would they leave their pet like that, unless something had happened to them? It was a massive red flag. As for Maisie, she went off to live with Bobby Jamison's mother, and trust me, you're going to want to savor that happy ending. It's the last one you're getting today. Oh god. Thanks, Callum. It's like, oh, it's Friday morning, I'm looking forward to the weekend, and Callum's just like, yeah, let me just ruin your Friday, whistle boy. God. I feel like also this could be the point in the casual criminalist episode. It's pretty classic where the police are like, nah, they probably just left their dog there and went for a really long hike. Because at this point, I'm like, that's what the police do. They give up really easily. If anything ever happens to any of my family, I'm going to be like, immediately like, okay, police, you do your thing. And in the meantime, I'll be hiring a team of private investigators to do some real work. Now, and don't get me wrong, the police, I don't, you know, generally, I'm pretty surprised how little I feel like I stick up for the police, because I'm like, generally they're out there doing, like, most of the time I feel like, and I know it's not like the super best time in, especially in America, to be like sticking up for the police, but generally, at least my experience of the police is, which is basically nothing, but they're out there. I don't even know, it's so controversial to like comment on this or say something good about the police, so I'm just not going to. But let's just move on. Whistleboy, what are you doing? You're going to get yourself in trouble. Now on to a more important question. Where the hell were the human members of the Jamison clan? Judging by the state of the car, it appeared as if they hadn't planned on being gone for long. Inside were their phones, wallet, clothes, jackets, a GPS, and $32,000 in cash, which is, weren't they super broke? They couldn't afford like a house? I feel like $32,000 is going to get you started on something better than a shipping container, at least. I mean, just go to like Homebase. What's that in American? Laos. Go to Laos and buy yourself like a fancy garage or a fancy put some insulation on the outside, put a little bit of carpet down. Lovely job. That's a pretty hefty amount for a couple known to be financially struggling. The loot was stashed in a bag underneath the passenger seat. This family also sound exactly like the sort of people who don't trust banks. They're like, why would I put my money in a bank? Never see it again. It's turned into ones and zeros, isn't it? So yes, exactly. It's very convenient and it's insured by the government. Why would you trust the government? Are you stupid? It's like, well, at some point you got to like trust someone. Otherwise you're keeping $32,000 in cash, which is risky. But also, why did no one steal that? I guess we're going to find out. The loot was stashed in a bag underneath the passenger seat. Presumably, it was brought along as a down payment on their 40 acres, assuming they could find the perfect place that weekend. Okay, so this is them actually scouting out that property. I often say, like, Callum, that wasn't clear. And then everyone in the comments is like, Simon, you absolutely read that bit aloud where Callum explained that. So I'm just going to assume that I read that aloud. And I just don't remember it. Because sometimes I'll be reading and I'll be thinking about something else like an idiot. However, nobody could quite explain how they came about that much in the first place. Moreover, there wasn't any sign of a struggle in the car. No specks of blood, cracked glass, or anything of the sort. The only sign of a conflict was between the husband and wife themselves. A thick letter addressed from Sherilyn to her husband Bobby, outlining everything she hated about him. Oh my god, what are you up to? Don't write down how much you hate your husband. That's weird. Perhaps things weren't quite as rosy in the Jamison household as I first made out. I don't know, I never thought like everything was normal with them. I don't want to say that people who want to go off and live... I just described how much I'd love to go and live in the countryside. But look, if you're buying like 40 acres, you're suing your dad and you're living in a shipping container, something's up with your family or your life or something like that. And look, if you're listening to this from your shipping container right now, I'm sorry. But it is a bit weird, isn't it? Unless you're in some sort of Grand Designs shipping container, which is a British show where people like make homes out of all sorts of crazy stuff. It's incredibly good. I mean, it's incredibly repetitive, but also, oh my god, can you not stop watching it? Yeah, unless you're in some sort of like fancy Grand Designs shipping container, in which case, cool. I'll probably watch your episode of Grand Designs when I've made my way through the never-ending archive of content. That still, somehow, like, I don't understand this YouTube, but like if you just search like Grand Designs episodes, there's like Grand Designs that I'm sure isn't supposed to be on YouTube, but it is. And I definitely don't watch it because that would be some sort of weird quasi-YouTube piracy, which I'm not sure how it exists in 2021 when I can't upload a video with like 3 seconds of copyrighted music that I actually paid for being flagged as a violation of copyright, which is enough ranting, Simon. Get back to the story. Happy House. This hateful letter to her hubby was just the latest in a long line of outbursts by Sherilyn, who was prone to bouts of extreme, vicious, depressive anger. She was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at a young age, but refused to keep up with her medication. As a result, she was known to lash out at her loved ones whenever her mood tanked. Hence the letter. 11 pages of unfiltered abuse, claiming that Bobby never cared about their daughter, that he was a hermit, and that she wanted a divorce. Judging by that, you might expect a tidy, husband-did-it conclusion, but hold your judgment for a few minutes, at least. Yeah, I don't know, I'm always, even before that, it's the husband, it's always the husband, unless there's something saying that it's not the husband. But also, if that woman's writing a letter, she's had bipolar disorder since she was young. The husband knew what he was getting into, so he must be somewhat understanding of this condition for him to have, been with her for so long. Sherilyn's condition had been worsening throughout the spring and summer of 2009, with longer periods of depression and increasingly violent outbursts. Her own mother, Connie Cockatan, had told a local news show that when she lived with them for a year, Sherilyn was a very strong-willed person, but I saw her change dramatically. She became very illogical. One day she drove me to Oklahoma City and dropped me off on the street. She told me, "Get out of my car," so I did. That is so intense. Just like, oh great, now I'm in Oklahoma. What am I going to do? Get on a bus? Greyhound, no. Dumping your own mum 2 hours away from home is pretty low. And if not anything else, it at least proves that there was a lot of tension in the Jamison household in the lead up to the disappearance. Bobby himself had also had problems with depression, especially after the car accidents back in 2003 hampered his mobility. All in all, it doesn't sound like their home was very happy place to live at the time. That's perhaps why 12-year-old Colton, Sherilyn's son from a prior marriage, chose to go live with his father that summer. The Jamisons lost custody, and at the hearing for the case, Colton explains that his mother acted strangely and was very depressed. To Sheriff Beauchamp, this all sounded quite worrying. What if the couple had done something drastic? To add to these worries, he got a first-hand glimpse of this strange behavior when his men searched the family's house and retrieved the footage from their security camera. Wait, okay, I'm assuming the security camera's outside rather than having like a security camera inside your house, like watching you. Although thinking about it, I do have like security cameras in my office, but they don't do, they do sound. So yeah, this is being also recorded by my security camera, which wipes every 24 hours, which is kind of weird to think about, really, isn't it? But there we have it. If I'm ever murdered, they'll be going through that. Brilliant, Simon. The video. On the morning of the disappearance, October the 8th, the security cameras facing out onto the Jamisons' driveway captured them loading up the car for their mountain excursion. Despite the horrifically low frame rate, we can see that they take around 24 trips back and forth, bringing clothes and equipment from the house. Curiously, one of the bags is Sherilyn's brown leather briefcase, which wasn't with the vehicle. This is also weird. Like, I thought they were just going to scout out somewhere to live, but they're like, no, we're just going to move up there, find those 40 acres, pay for them in cash, and then just not leave. It's a bit weird, isn't it? Nothing particularly out of the ordinary. Oh, okay. Well, Callum doesn't think it's out of the ordinary. I think it's pretty weird. Except that throughout the entire thing, neither Bobby nor Sherilyn appear to say a single word to each other. Sometimes they walk back and forth without even bringing anything into the car, and then they stop frequently and just stare into space. It's as if they've both been hypnotized, or rather, it's as if both of them are high as Let me explain. Yeah, that is a bit weird, isn't it? I was like, well, if you're loading the car and you're just focused on that, I mean, you're not going to stop and have a conversation like every time because you're loading the car. But yeah, then it's like just staring out into space. Okay, guys, you're on meth. As is becoming abundantly clear the more I research this show, rural America absolutely loves meth. They love it! And Eastern Oklahoma is no different. In fact, I have absolutely no idea. If someone was like, where's Oklahoma on a map? I'll be like, it's somewhere in the, like, it's either in the southwest above Florida, or it's in the northeast below Washington. Like, those are two areas where it's like, I feel like northeast and southwest, you could be like, yeah, it's California, and then there's all of those tiny states that, you know, like Massachusetts and all of those ones. And then everything else in America, like that big middle bit, it's like, oh, not really sure what's going on in there. There's lots of really big states, and then there's Texas. In fact, the area around Eufaula is apparently notorious for drug gang activity. Sure, Bobby and Sherilyn look a bit too mellow in the video to be full-on buzzing, but the long-term exhaustion that meth addiction brings could certainly induce periods of zombie-like haze that they appear to be in. Friends and family say there's no way the couple were users, but at the time they admit that they both of them grew increasingly paranoid in the weeks leading up to the disappearance, and they looked emaciated. Regardless, no drugs nor paraphernalia were found in the house. If they really were smoking meth, they were damn good at hiding it. Yeah, I mean, okay, just because I was kind of kidding when I'm like, they're definitely on meth. If there's no evidence that they're using meth, just because meth is extremely popular doesn't mean that they're on meth. So if they weren't high, what the hell were Bobby and Sherilyn up to that morning? Are we witnessing two people on the brink of a breakdown, or just a regular marital spat? Were they perhaps just exhausted from worry, or was there, as some people believe, something more sinister going on? Oh my. It's like one of those ones where it's just a bit creepy, isn't it? It's like chill down your spine creepy. The Search. Before we go any further, let's review the timeline that the sheriff's office has come up with so far. 1. The family leave their house on the morning of the 8th after packing up their car like zombies. 2. They drive about 30 miles from Eufaula and meet with a representative to discuss a piece of land for sale. 3. They then leave and drive up to a secluded spot in the mountains. An unnamed witness who lived a quarter of a mile from where the car was found saw them driving. Notably, theirs wasn't the only car that he noticed going up that day. And 4. Then, sometime in the afternoon, for some reason, they abandon the car and disappear. Quite a crude timeline, but there are a few more puzzle pieces left. A closer inspection of Bobby's phone yielded some useful GPS information, which showed that after parking up at the oil well, the family went for a hike to a nearby hilltop. Following this route through the trees, the cops found small footprints which they assumed belonged to Madison. According to this data, the family spent about 15 minutes up on the hilltop before descending again. Sometime along the way, a picture of Madison was snapped on Bobby's phone. In it, she's either laughing or crying, no one really knows, and the media would go on to make a big deal out of guessing. After descending, it appears as if they must have hopped back into the car, taken their phones out of their pockets, and then something odd. Judging by the way the car was parked, it appears as if they had attempted to drive off at this point, but then stopped the car for some reason. Had they got the sudden urge to go for another little walk? Well, not likely, given Bobby's bad back. Which is why the family suspected that someone on the road prevented them from leaving. Sure, there was every chance that they did just go for a walk and get lost, but then the dog and the GPS would have been with them. Plus, Bobby was an accomplished outdoorsman, and his back pain meant that their range would be quite limited. And if this was the story of how some guy threw his back out while hiking and was rescued by the police a week after, we probably wouldn't be covering it on this show. This is another one of those episodes. I don't know, sometimes you can read like the Greyhound beheading one, where it's like, this is the most graphically horrific episode that I feel we've done. It involves, you know, a guy getting his head cut off on a bus and then him having his heart eaten. But that doesn't make me like get the chills in my little office here. But these ones where it's like creepy, I'm like looking around, it's so dark and I can't see because the studio lights, and I'm like, yeah, what's going on? It's not a good time. A massive search operation got underway on the 17th. Do you reckon with the casual criminalist, like a lot of people listen to this show now? I mean, it's a really dark thought, but someone's eventually going to get murdered, like listening to this show, right? It could be you. God, Simon, what's wrong with you? A massive search operation got underway on the 17th, roping in hundreds of volunteers, 2 helicopters, horses, mules, quad bikes, 16 canine teams, and a drone. Had you been one of the volunteers that day, you'd have heard the entire forest abuzz with activity. Dogs running around, the family's names echoing all around, drowned out as the choppers swoop overhead. The name of this patch of mountains, Sandboys, means without wood in French, which is a little ironic considering how much of the thick tree canopies slowed down the search. The aerial vehicles were basically useless. The undergrowth made it even tougher on the ground as volunteers and cops braved steep ravines and narrow hunting trails to access the most treacherous parts of the landscape. Wait, why are those aerial vehicles useless? I've seen enough of there's that show where they have the police chases, lights, camera, action. I don't know, there's probably lights, camera, action, that can't be right. Police camera action. It's a show from like the 90s in the UK where there's the people who go on the police chases, the police are chasing them, and at some point they get out of their car and it's like, uh-oh, you got out the car, there's a helicopter, and they're like, I'll hide in this forest, and then the helicopter just turns on its heat vision or whatever, and it's like, yeah, there they are. They're really hot and they're in the forest. So what are you going to do? And they get caught. Why can't they do this? What's wrong with that? Turn on the heat vision. Come on. And then the rain came. As the torrent started bucketing down a few days into the search, she'd have spent more time of the day trying to push the rescue vehicles out of the mud than actually searching for the family. These oil and gas roads are barely maintained, making it nigh on impossible to effectively search in weather like this. Aside from the risk of flash floods, the sheriff also had to reckon with the fact that the deer hunting season was kicking off that Friday. Any volunteer mistaken for a buck could end up with a bullet to the brain, meaning the operation was likely to cause a bunch more missing person cases rather than solve one. About a week in, the search was called off. Where are the police? Just be like, don't go hunting in this wood for like 4 days, guys. There's a missing family. And all the hunters, assuming they're not dickheads, which I think the vast majority are not going to be like, cool, yeah, no problem. We'll wait a few days because there's a missing 11-year-old or whatever. Like, what sort of knobhead is going to be like, I want to go hunting. I've been waiting all year to go hunting. It's like, just go hunting nearby. No! I don't know. I feel like the comments are going to be like, yeah, hunters are I'd be like, I don't know. They don't seem that bad. So what happens? Without the happy ending we'd all been hoping for, the Jamesons' loved ones were forced to face up to the fact that they were probably not coming home. The weeks turned into months, with the trail growing colder and colder despite assistance from the FBI and countless other agencies. Sheriff Beauchamp explained it like this: a lot of investigators would love to have many leads as we do. The problem is, they point in so many different directions. Basically, when you start digging deep into the family's history, so many possibilities arise that it's tough to make sense of them all. And as you can imagine with a case like this, the internet was soon abuzz with speculation. Surprise! The more blank spaces that can be filled with nonsense, the more the online sleuths start foaming at the mouth. And so, in the spirit of that great internet tradition, we're going to kick off with the most bizarre theory of all. Oh no, I read the title already. Some ghosts did it. Yes, one of the most strange theories around the Jamison family disappearance reads more like the first draft of The Conjuring than something that belongs in a police report. See, Bobby and Sherilyn were heavily religious folks, good church-going Christians who dabbled in just a light bit of Satanism. Actually, they were fascinated with all kinds of magic and spirituality, taking their faith to some pretty extreme ends. Case in point, their ongoing battle against a gang of demons that had taken up residence on the roof. No, I'm not joking. Oh God, I wish... Someone, I can't remember if it's a YouTube comment or a review, was like, I don't like this show and how Simon doesn't consider the ghost option or the poltergeist option or the whatever option. And I don't consider that because I don't believe in any of that nonsense. And then the person was like, this just seems like a bad business decision because people who like true crime often like this stuff as well. And I'm like, yeah, but this is like the sci-fi and fantasy thing to me. I love sci-fi. I can't stand fantasy. I love true crime. I can't stand poltergeist bull because I don't know, like one is real and interesting and there's something you can solve and it's tangible. And one is just, to me, it's just my opinion, it's a bit silly. And also, if I was to purposefully lean into that, there are shows out there which I know do this. And you can hear the hosts being like, it just feels like you're pandering to that part of the audience. And if I did that, it would feel so fake. And I hate that fakeness when I listen to other people who are doing this, and also on YouTube. Like on YouTube, that poltergeist stuff and ghost stuff does so well. And there are channels you discover, and it's like they started off as like fact-based, doing interesting educational stuff, and then they're like, oh my god, the ghost stuff works so well. And you can just tell that these people hate their lives because they're like, they don't believe in it, and it's just what they have to do, and it feels fake, and I hate it. So in a really long response to a review about that, or a comment or whatever it was, that's why I'm so sorry that you don't get to hear about me loving ghosts on this channel, because I think it's all a lie. If you don't like that, I guess leave a bad review or a negative comment or a thumbs up. That's okay. I don't mind. I can't please everybody. I'm not here to do that. Bobby and Sherilyn truly believed, although their portmanteau name, Bobolin. Very nice. Bobolin truly believed that their lakeside house in Eufaula was haunted. It all started when little Madison, this time with a Y, met an imaginary friend named Emily. Innocent enough, if a little creepy, but for some reason her parents got it in their heads that this imaginary friend wasn't the coping mechanism of a lonely little girl, but an evil entity who was there to steal their souls. Apparently Emily, the friendly ghost, and a few other demons lived on the roof of the house and would regularly harass the family. And these guys, this we're going to put in the column of maybe they were on meth. Sherilyn's best friend, Nikki Chenol, told the press, but in all seriousness, the house was haunted. I don't want to sound crazy, but whenever I went there, I felt a horrible presence. I would leave feeling so down and depressed. Bobby, who was such a gentle man, would suddenly come at her, and his eyes would be completely dead and black, like he was possessed. Note to Simon. Oh, okay. Am I supposed to read this out loud? Now would be a perfect time to plug an advert for carbon monoxide detectors. Oh my god, yeah, carbon monoxide. Wait, was this on Casual Criminalist? It was, right? Where we had the guy who was just driven crazy by carbon monoxide. Oh my god. And again, was this Casual Criminalist? If it was, that was so long ago, Callum. Carbon monoxide is absolutely crazy. One, it will kill you in your sleep. But if you just get little amounts leaking into your house and stuff, it makes you crazy and believe in ghosts. And so much of like people believing in ghosts, like the science, which I know all the ghost people are like, science can't explain everything, Simon. I'm not saying it can. I absolutely don't believe that science explains everything. What I do believe is that it could in the future at some point. And if there's something that's going to explain it, it's going to be science and not ghosts. All right. But yeah, if you don't have a carbon monoxide detector, go get one. I have two in my office. I have one at home. I have one everywhere that I live. There's a carbon monoxide, or I spend time. There's a carbon monoxide detector. Even when faced with demons possessing the love of her life, Sherilyn wasn't worried. She believed that she had the power to cast out those demons from her home with the power of witchcraft. I know it's rough and bad, but I gotta do my Southern preacher voice when, you're casting anything out. She would leave notes around the place saying, "Get out, Satan!" Not quite. Sorry, that slipped into British too much. "Get out, Satan!" Not quite the ancient Latin spell I was expecting, but apparently did the job. The police found these quirky little notes alongside a copy of something called the Witch's Bible when they searched the house. Best mate Nikki Chenault confirmed that she and Sherilyn bought them as a joke several years before, but our missing women soon started taking the whole thing a lot more seriously. That sounds exactly like the sort of thing carbon monoxide would make you do. You'd be like, yeah, I bought you the Witch's Bible. Good joke. 1 week after carbon monoxide poisoning. Oh my god, there's something to that Witch's Bible. The Witch's Bible is haunting my soul. That's not really all that wild. Nowadays, there are loads of these Wiccan communities online where people who all watched a bit too much Harry Potter as a kid convince each other that they could cast spells. If any Wiccan leaders are offended by my skepticism, then go on, curse me out. I dare you. Yeah, I'll echo that. Put a curse on me. Someone sent me an email saying that they'd cursed me once and that my life was going to go terribly wrong. And my life's pretty great. Bobby's approach to fighting evil was, and this was a long time ago, and it's life's still great. Life's still great. I'm not going to touch wood because I don't believe in any of that shite. Bobby's approach to fighting evil was a little more concerning. The family's pastor, Gary Brandon, told the cops how the man of the house had approached him earlier in 2009, saying he was locked in spiritual warfare. He asked, I'm going to stop. He asked if there was any way that he could get a hold of special bullets to shoot the damn ghosts with. The idea of exercising your home with a hail of holy gunfire is potentially the most Oklahoman thing that I've ever heard. Yes, Callum. Yes, it is. But of course, the pastor didn't have any sacred bullets or holy hand grenades, so the Jamesons had to find another way to purge their abode. Toward that end, Bobby purchased a copy of the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, founder of the Church of Satan. Now, I'm no expert, but if you're looking to fight demons, wouldn't you be better off with just a regular old vanilla Bible? As you might expect, our wannabe demon hunters didn't exactly make the best neighbors. They're best. Like, what are you doing? Why are you being so loud? I'm shooting the demons on the roof. Oh my God, please stop. Less meth, maybe. Just a little less meth. I know it's popular, but please less meth. Also, I'm buying you a carbon monoxide detector for Christmas. As you might expect, our wannabe demon hunters didn't exactly make the best neighbors. I read that already. At best, their behavior was reclusive and offbeat, and at worst, it was outright antisocial. For example, Sherilyn got it in her head that the neighbors were poisoning her cat, so she sprayed a bunch of graffiti on the side of the aforementioned shipping container, which read, 3 black cats killed to date by people in this area. Witches don't like their black cat killed. And I'll just say you can't see this if you're listening to this show, but there's a lot of errors in her spelling and grammar. Are you starting to see a bit of a pattern emerging here? Paranoid, besieged by all sides, both demons and humans, looking to fight their way out with bullets and black magic rituals. Something was clearly very wrong at the Jamison household, and I'm not just talking about their marital issues. And as if satanic hordes weren't enough to deal with, the couple then found themselves fighting a new danger. The Nazis did it. By the way, I'm just thinking right now, is there a charity that gives out carbon monoxide detectors for free? Because there absolutely should be. I think that would be such a worthy cause, because we'd finally, there'd be the charity is set up and everyone's provided with a carbon monoxide detector in their home for free, or government start doing this. And then 10 years later, be wow, the number of people saying there are ghosts and really fell by a lot. The Skeptical Society, or whoever, there's these people who raise all this, skeptical, whatever, this sort of stuff. They should be paying for this, because that is going to be excellent for proving your point, Skeptical Society. I'm willing to outright reject the idea that how do you say that word? Beelzebub? Beelzebub? And his demonic hordes were responsible for the sudden disappearance of the Jamison family. So who can we blame instead? Try Hitler, or rather a group of white supremacists inspired by neo-Nazi ideology who had it out for the family. I feel like in that case, inspired is too positive of a word. I think dispired should be a word. Not uninspired, because that's different, but dispired, where it's infamous to famous. Would be dispired to inspired. I'm just full of brilliant ideas today, aren't I? If my genius knows no bounds. If you've seen pictures of the couple, this idea would seem quite strange, because both Bobby and Sherilyn, or Bobolin, and by extension their daughter, look white as hell. But Sherilyn was part Native American and had a close call with a neo-Nazi scumbag not long before she and her family disappeared. In the summer of 2009, Bobby decided that he needed a little bit of extra help around the house on account of his back. So he invited his handyman, Kenneth Bellows, to come and stay with them. As is always the case with new roommates, it took a few weeks for Bellows' true colors to show. The man was a big-time bigot, a full-blown white power Aryan pride ball bag. Oh no. It never became an issue until one day he discovered that his new landlady had native blood. Racism is the most absurd shit, right? Because it's yeah, we've been getting along great. But then I found out you're 1/16th whatever insert race that the racist doesn't like. And it's yeah, no, I hate you. It just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense. Oh, what a revelation, Simon. Racism is stupid. He would make indirect comments about her ancestry whenever her husband wasn't around, and it came to a head in August while Bobby was out in town. Bellows sat down next to Sherilyn, got up in her face, and started racially abusing her. Sherilyn felt threatened, but she never backed down. She ran to the bedroom and retrieved her trusty .22 caliber pistol and pointed it at the lodger's head. Legend. Bellows backed up and went outside, but refused to get off the property. What are you doing, Bellows? She's got a gun. So Sherilyn emptied a few rounds into the ground at his feet, sending him running off with his tail between his legs. Don't worry, you're allowed to cheer gun violence if the person being shot at is a massive Nazi. Yeah, f*** you, Bellows. Yes! When Sheriff Beauchamp heard this, he thought that the case was to be wrapped up nice and neatly. He had the barrel stuck in his ear by Sherilyn, and at first you think, great, here's someone with a motive, but the FBI cleared him. Yeah, unfortunately, Bellas had a solid alibi for where he was on October the 8th. There's no way he could have been involved in the disappearance, unless, of course, he wasn't directly to blame. Who's to say whether or not some of his white supremacist associates decided to act for him and kidnap the Jamesons that day? I'd say that's entirely possible. And you know what? It's definitely more possible than ghosts. Leave those 1-star reviews. Grandpa, don't do that. I love 5-star reviews. It warms my little heart. The Crambar did it. That's certainly something to keep in mind, but perhaps we don't need to look too far at all to find suspects. As it turns out, one of the family's closest relatives was a leading suspect early in the case. Oh yeah, the guy's getting he's suing his own dad or something, isn't he? Bobby's father, Bob Sr. Remember how I told you that Bobby had an outstanding lawsuit against his father? Well, that wasn't all. The two had an incredibly volatile relationship and endless disagreements over money, which allegedly spilled over into violence at least once. It all started years ago when Bobby Dean Jamison bought a gas station in Oklahoma City. He reportedly had his son work there for free, in the understanding that he would get a cut of the cash when he eventually sold the place. But according to court documents, when that day came, Bobby Jr. never got a penny, as his mother, Starlet, explains, things soured between father and son real fast. My first car was a Toyota Starlet. It's a great little car, unfortunately named for an 18-year-old boy to have a car called Starlet, but it was a great little car. I loved that thing. Quote, Bobby fought for his money and it all turned a bit ugly. I don't want to turn Bob Sr. into some kind of monster, but he did threaten the family. We had split up by that stage. There was a few confrontations and we were worried, so I installed security cameras at the house. Yes, Big Bob was actually the reason the security cameras were installed in the first place. This guy, prime suspect. Motive. Yes. Bobby and Sherilyn were apparently so afraid of him that they attempted to get a restraining order earlier in 2009. This guy. It's so far like this is the dude. Although then you got to kill your own son, which is pretty intense. But also suing your own dad's pretty intense, isn't it? Those court documents allege that old Grandpa Jamison was a very dangerous man who thinks he's above the law and was linked to prostitutes, gangs, and meth, all of those fun things. Bobby told the judge that his pimpin' pensioner father threatened to kill him and his family on multiple occasions, once in November 2008 and again in April 2009. During the first incident, Big Bob allegedly ran over his own son with his car. Holy shit, my dude. This is like, I take back everything I said about, I don't know, killing your own son's pretty intense. Honestly sounds like this guy's up for it, allegedly. Is it too much of a stretch to think that this elderly meth lord might have finally followed through on his threats? No, it's not. Sure, he was 67 years old and unwell at this point, hardly fit to go executing family members, and the police were able to clear his alibi. Not he had an alibi. Fair enough. Bob Sr. was in a rest home on the time of the disappearance. However, his associates wouldn't have any such obstacles. Some claim that the old boy had links to the Mexican cartels out of Texas. Okay, I'm guessing Oklahoma's somewhere near Texas. There we go. Geography with Whistleboy. Or perhaps this was all just a family feud getting blown out of proportion. People with violent temper say all kinds of things, but it takes a special kind of psychopath to order the execution of your own granddaughter. As Bobby Sr.'s brother Jack put it, he was either in hospital or in a rest home. I just don't think he was involved. He was disturbed at the time, but I'm pretty sure he was not capable of being involved in that. Well, that's what they all say, isn't it? But yeah, killing your own son, killing your own granddaughter who you don't even have an issue with, that's some crazy shit. I sincerely hope so. Whatever the case, Bob Dean Jamison passed away 2 months after the disappearance of his son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter. The police never pursued him or any of his associates, meaning there's only a very slim chance that any of them were involved. The family skipped town. So maybe it was a bit grim heaping so much suspicion on an old man at the end of his life, even if he was a drug-pushing pimp/thug/gangster, but we can take something from that story to work with. Meth. Glorious meth. As I mentioned before, the region of Oklahoma is well known for drug production. It's a big part of the local culture. Think wine country, but for amphetamines. Tourists can even enjoy a guided meth lab tour with a tasting at the end. Citation needed. It'd be cool. I think the police should do that. They should keep one of those meth labs open so you can go take a tour and they'll explain how dangerous it is to cook meth and stuff. Because I've seen Breaking Bad. It can go wrong. So when someone who lives adjacent to their world suddenly shows up with 32 grand-ish in cash, there's a 90% chance that it's meth-related. This we discovered the Jamesons grew increasingly skinny and agitated around the time of the disappearance, and some friends said that it seemed like they thought someone was out to get them. Maybe they thought it was ghosts. Maybe they were making a break for it after crossing the wrong person, but were tracked down in the mountainside that day. However, if they were involved in the drug trade themselves, you'd expect a little bit of evidence of that somewhere in the house or car. It still leaves the possibility, though, that they were involved not as dealers or users, but as witnesses. Consider the fact that one friend of the family reported that earlier in 2009, Bobby lodged a complaint against someone in the neighborhood for operating a meth lab in their home. If that kind of news got out, you'd definitely be looking over your shoulder whenever you left the house. You might even want to disappear entirely. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. If I accidentally discovered some big gang activity, I'll be like, and they knew I'd discover it. I'll be like, yeah, saw nothing, carrying on, please don't murder me. And I definitely wouldn't tell the police. I'll just be like, you carry, unless it was like human smuggling or something. If it was just drugs and I'd be like, carry on, got no interest in this. I am a private citizen going about his private business. And now I'm like, shouldn't you report it? Isn't that the moral thing to do? And it's like, yeah, it is. But I also like being alive. Based on the way their car was left abandoned, some believe that the Jamesons were attempting to fake their own death to avoid retribution from whatever drug gang they had wronged. That could explain the speedy disappearance. Even Sherilyn's 12-year-old son, Colton, had no idea his mother planned on moving. It was even argued that federal marshals could have been involved, meaning after reporting the drug gang, Bobby might have been set up to testify. In a big case, that would have meant the family was put into witness protection. If that were the case, local cops would have been left in the dark in case of corruption. Yeah, but when you enter witness protection, do they fake your disappearance? Don't you just disappear? It's not elaborately set up like this, is it? But then, why not take the money with them? A pile of 32 grand can really help out when starting a new life. Believe me, I know. This is my 17th identity. Yeah, I mean, also, I don't think you would. If you were being in witness protection, oh no, if they were just going to set up a new life, yeah, they'd take the 32 grand. If they were in witness protection, the witness protection dudes would be like, you ain't taking that 32 grand. If you roll up somewhere and you've already got 32 grand in cash, people are going to be like, who are the new people? Whereas if you roll up somewhere and you don't, they're just going to be like, new people. No big deal. Like every damn theory attached to this case, it doesn't quite add up. Sure, it's comforting to imagine Bobby, Sherilyn, little Madison off enjoying a new life on the beaches of California, but in the end, that would prove to be nothing but a hopeful fantasy. Oh, does Callum imply that we're getting a resolution today? I kind of thought this one would just be unsolved. Let us carry on. Meet the Jamesons. 4 autumns came and went before the next break in the case. During that time, Sheriff Beauchamp worked himself to the bone, chasing every little tip that came down the line, no matter how ludicrous. Quote, I'm at my wit's end. I've asked for all the help I could get. 12 FBI agents, 3 OSBI agents, Troop Z of the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, private investigators who have contacted me. I even belittled myself to the point where I was listening to psychics. Okay. I mean, also, mad respect for this guy, because often on the Casual Criminalist, as I brought up earlier in, the whole police thing, it's like, often it doesn't seem like they try super hard. And in this case, hell yeah, this is the dude that I want on it. Like any case, I'd be like, I want this Sheriff Beauchamp guy. He seems like a legend. It'd be bad if he turns out to be the killer. I don't think so. Now we're in November 2013, and a topographical map of the area hangs on the lawman's office wall, a constant reminder of the most difficult case of his career. On the map are lines drawn up in marker pen showing the search routes that spread across the mountains that week back in 2009. Many miles of mountain searched, with no results. But what the sheriff didn't know at the time was that there was no need to cast such a wide net over the vast expanse of wilderness. As it turns out, the Jamison family never made it very far at all. On November the 16th, 2013, a man out scouting for deer in the San Bois Mountains came across a grizzly site. Poking up through a thick layer of autumn leaves was the unmistakable off-white color of a human skull. A closer look revealed 2 more by its side, one of them the same size, the other far smaller. The man called the police, who brought a team up to the spot, just 2.7 miles away from where the Jamison family's car was recovered. They shifted away the layers of soil and detritus on the remains and found what they described as bits of clothing and other bones and bone fragments. Among them was a child's pink shawl, Madison's favorite color, and a dried flower, or what was assumed to be her body. As you can imagine, the state of decay was extremely advanced. These were just the remains of skeletons, which, if they really did belong to the Jamison family, had been exposed to the elements and wildlife for 4 years. It would be a further 18 months before forensic scientists could verify using dental records and DNA that these were indeed Sherilyn, Bobby, and Madison. Even though they weren't very far from the car at all, it's understandable why the initial search never found their bodies. Wow, okay. I'd kind of be like, wait, you were searching all over the mountain, but you didn't find them? This remote part of the mountain, known as Smokestack Hollow, was rarely traveled, and the bodies lay on a steep incline. Okay, fair enough. The poor weather back in 2009 could have obscured the bodies and prevented volunteers from reaching them. Given the winding route necessary to make it up to that point, the actual distance traveled is closer to 7 miles. So why was the family going up that way? What, they just randomly decided to bail on the car, leave the dog, and take their 6-year-old on an incredibly arduous hike to absolutely nowhere? Well, investigators took a look at the position of the bodies and theorized that perhaps they didn't do so willingly. The remains were all face down and arranged in a row, almost in the style of an execution. Yeah, but then, so the person executed, I guess to like get them really off the path and stuff, but it sounds quite hard, forcing them into this very off the beaten path location. This also appeared to rule out the possibility that they were caught unawares by a flash flood. Heavy rains were washing over the area at the time. There's no way that would have left them perched on an incline in such an orderly formation. And even if exposure got them, would they really just all lie down like that? The chances of this being a natural death were looking very slim. And so you're assuming gunshot wounds, right? So can't you find the bullets, or maybe strangulation? Won't there be like broken bits of bone and stuff? I don't know. It seems like we could I hope they do some forensics and find out. And again, the remains were far too decayed to get any conclusive evidence from. Oh, okay, there we go. There goes that one. Well, they could still look for bullets around, like little rounds, the metal bits in the ground or in the bodies or whatever. However, analysis of Bobby's skull revealed what may have been a small bullet hole in the back. There we go. About where a round might have entered the victim are on his knees and the killer standing. The hunter who found the bodies thought the same thing. Okay. Well, how about, I mean, I know the hunter uses a gun, but how about we leave the actual identification of holes in skulls to forensics, maybe? Now, it's like the hunter agrees. Excellent. Stands up in court. Now, this could very well be a coincidence. I thankfully haven't seen pictures, but I've read the report saying that there were all kinds of wear and tear on the skulls, mostly attributed to rodents. Yeah, but we can can't you tell this? Like, you can tell a bullet hole, right? Hence, police eventually dropped this line of reasoning from their inquiries, but more for lack of verifiability than anything else. Finding the bodies ended up raising more questions than it answered. In the end, the cause of death in all 3 cases was listed as unknown. And just like that, we're right back into the zone of speculation. Who killed the Jamesons? The news of the bodies was devastating for the families, but at least it offered up one consolation: the possibility of closure. The case had slipped out of the news cycle years ago, and it was little more than a minor fixture on true crime websites. But now, a fresh wave of interest came along, and several new theories about what exactly happened that day. Yeah, I mean, the closure's got to be good. Even though they're dead, it's like, you don't, like, not knowing, I feel, would be worse. A drug deal gone wrong. We'll start with the obvious. After all the speculation about the Jamesons being somehow involved in drugs, it sure does look suspicious to find them dead in a way that bears the hallmark of a gangland execution. Perhaps the Jamesons were on their way to deliver that cash to someone involved in the drug trade, but something went wrong during the deal. However, if that were the case, surely the mystery gang member would have nabbed the $32,000 before making a break for it. Say what you want about murderous meathead biker gangs, but they're not stupid. Well, this is where the missing bag from before comes into play. Remember I told you that the security footage shows the Sharon oh yeah, I totally forgot about this. Remember I showed you the security footage shows Sharon loading up the car with her brown leather briefcase. Well, this missing bag wasn't with the bodies either. Sheriff Beauchamp was keen to locate from the get-go, saying, I think it might have held a lot of cash. Could it be then that Bobby and Sherilyn had arranged to meet someone up on that mountain who swindled them out of the cash, or so they thought? In reality, the killer just got whatever unknown amount was packed into the briefcase, leaving the rest of the loot tucked safely underneath the car seat. Certainly possible. After the bodies were found, Sherilyn's mother Connie recalled a strange comment that Bobby made in the summer before they disappeared. Bobby told Sherilyn, I know where I can get the money, but I won't involve you. Yeah, this sounds pretty smart. I've known people who, like, if they're traveling somewhere in some like particularly dodgy place, they'll carry a decoy wallet. So if someone robs them, it's like the wallet that's got, an expired credit card and like a small amount of cash in, and then they have their real wallet somewhere else. So for obvious reasons. Seems pretty smart to have a decoy money bag. That sounds suspicious, and from what I gather, the fastest way to get some quick cash in Oklahoma is by dabbling in meth. However, if Bobby was adamant that he didn't want to bring his wife, then why the hell did he bring the kid? I don't think bring your daughter to work day applies to drug dealers, but I could be wrong. An offering to a cult. So, what now? I hear you ask. If the mess gangs are off the hook, who can possibly be to blame? Well, friends, the number one rule of internet sleuthing is that when you run out of sensible leads, you should start screaming about cults. And that's just what happens here. Or often, start screaming about the paranormal, because obviously if it's not something like real, it's going to be the paranormal. Said way too many people all the time. Makes no sense to me. Although the idea was never really entertained by the authorities, Sherilyn's mother, Connie Carcatan, made waves by telling the papers she thought that a religious cult may be to blame for the murders. Well, it's a lot more believable than the paranormal, isn't it? Perhaps people are like, no, Simon, it's not, it was ghosts. Perhaps they stumbled across some freaky pagan ritual out there and became the unlucky sacrifice. A little disclaimer before we go further. For this theory, Carcatan cites stories on the internet. Brilliant starting place, which essentially means that you lot have been putting wild ideas in her head, so please stop. Her explanation goes like this, that part of Oklahoma is known for that, cults and stuff like that. From what I've been told and from what I've read, I was told that she was on a cult's hit list. So, why would a cult bother targeting the family, you ask? Well, there are a couple of theories. The first is that they were themselves involved with some sort of esoteric organization, and that the money they took to the mountain might have been some kind of offering. They wouldn't be the first people to renounce their worldly possessions and go live with some nutjobs in the forest, definitely not. And we already know that the couple were into some wild stuff. Who knows what kind of people they could have sought out once the pastor refused to cough up some blessed bullets. If you want something a bit more concrete, then consider the fact that there was an abandoned pickup truck dumped not far from where their own car was found. This old wreck was used as target practice by local hunters and was tagged with what the papers called satanic messages. Nikki Chenault claims that Sherilyn's own messages were tagged on top of these ones, saying things like, peace and God loves you. Maybe someone saw her and got really angry because she was writing over their messages. It wouldn't surprise me up there. Yeah. That's a crime that was worth murdering over. Someone ruining your graffiti. Really, Nikki? It wouldn't surprise you if a satanic cult killed your mate's whole family because she tagged over their Satan #1 graffiti. What the hell would it take to surprise you? Yes, it's an excellent question. And what an absurd statement to make, Nikki. You weirdo. White Power Part 2. Revenge of the Neo-Nazis. So we're all willing to chalk up the cult hit list angle as total nonsense. Yes, Callum, I agree, it's total nonsense. Let's move on from it. Okay, good. I promise the next one has a bit more sense to it. Remember our old friends, the white supremacists? Oh no. Simon out of context. Remember my old friends, the white supremacists? From when I used to be a... No, Callum, why are you making me say? Well, even after massive racist Kenneth Bellows was cleared by the FBI, a tip came through which gave extra credibility to the idea of a racially motivated revenge killing. For years after the disappearance, Nikki Chenault took time out of her own life to dedicate herself to the search. In 2010, she appeared on the Discovery Network show Disappeared. Not long after, she received a phone call from a woman who said that she used to be part of a white supremacist group called the United White Knights. Brilliant name, guys. Very clever what you did there with White Knight and white. Very clever. I guess white supremacists are not exactly known for their big brains. The mystery caller claimed that this organization kept a book. Uh-oh. Someone's going to be writing down their crimes, in which they noted down the names of their enemies. An actual hit list. Uh-oh. As we have discussed on this podcast previously, the number one tip about being a criminal, do not write down your crimes. The woman said that she made a point of memorizing the names from the book at UWK meetings, then Googling them when she got home. We've also discussed this. Don't Google your crimes. Sure enough, she found missing persons case after missing persons case, and among them was the name Sherilyn Jamison. It still takes a lot of assumptions to knit this one together, but at least we have a motive, Kenneth Bellows' untimely eviction, and the name of an organization. I had a quick Google, so you at home don't have to end up on an FBI watch list and discover that there are more than a few of these groups active in the American South. She might have just meant the United Dixie White Knights, Loyal White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, or any number of similarly named affiliates. Why is this a thing? Can we just stop it with the racism already? It's 2021. What the f***? Brilliant, Simon. You social justice hero. That's going to end racism. Well done. Yes, if this were... But it's not like I'm intending to do anything. It's just like, it's kind of surprising to me that it looks like, come on, what are we up to? Stupid humans. Yes, if this woman was for real, the KKK might have been involved. I know this might come as quite a shock, but the KKK isn't just about fun bonfires and community spirits. Some of them are actually less than admirable people. Just to be absolutely clear, this is all very sarcastic, and everyone knows the KKK are a bunch of pricks. In fact, you might go as far to say that the KKK are actually not that nice at all. So it's relatively plausible when Nikki says the mystery tipster, this is a quote, she had overheard some conversations with these guys where clearly they were talking about Sherilyn, Bobby, and Madison, that they took care of them. However, bear in mind that this came after the first big wave of media hype. The white power connection was already well known, and at times like that, all kinds of frauds come crawling out of the woodwork for the sake of fame, attention, or just plain boredom. Yes, it's like, oh look, did you read about that family, including a young kid getting murdered in the woods by racists? Yeah, that was me. That was me. I was that murderous racist. If you ever find yourself making that statement, as Lord hopes that you don't, just maybe make some new friends. Maybe the guys with the big pointy hats, leave them alone. Go, I don't know. Literally try anything else. Nikki no doubt dealt with her fair share of that in those days, but this one, she says, was different. The caller allegedly gave a description of the unique insignia on Bobby Jamison's wedding ring. If true, then that would be the smoking gun we need. However, none of this was ever confirmed by law enforcement, but I admit that it's far more compelling than the vague suggestion of cults in the hills. But then we have to ask, were Bellows' associates not looked into at all? That's tough to believe, seeing as the FBI were following that lead. How did the killers get up the hill without the witness who lived nearby knowing? Well, perhaps they were already in the car pointing a gun at the family, which would have made for a very awkward meeting with the landowner's representative earlier in the day, and a very uncomfortable hike up the hill before coming down, dumping their gear, and being murdered. Whatever way you spin it, it's highly unlikely that anyone followed the family up there that day, which makes me wonder, was the killer already up there all along? Yeah, it could just be some weirdo dude hanging out in the woods. I feel like that's kind of stereotypical, but definitely possible. Let's crack on. An unfortunate meeting. We've already tossed drug deal gone bad to the bottom of the pile, but there remains an alternative. What if the Jamesons accidentally got wrapped up in the drug trade? What I mean is, the Sam Boys Mountains are apparently a hotspot for secluded cooking shacks, as in cooking crystal meth, not brunch. Yep. No one was under any illusions there, Callum. We know some Breaking Bad trailer home was going on. Trailer home? What's that thing they had in... Oh, RV cooking, not trailer home. I mean, I guess it's a trailer. I don't know. What's a trailer home? Just like in the old days of Prohibition when moonshiners would hide their stills out in the forests, nowadays meth manufacturers sometimes chose to set up temporary facilities far away from prying eyes. What if the Jamisons stumbled across such a place or saw some sort of deal go down? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to if I was cooking meth, right? I mean, I don't think you need electricity, and even if you do, buy a generator. Look, I'm assuming meth's going to be a fairly high profit business because it's a crime, and if you're doing crimes and it's not a high profit business, well, just go into regular business, wouldn't you? I mean, without the risk of becoming a criminal, or definitely becoming a criminal. You're cooking meth. But I definitely wouldn't be cooking meth in my kitchen in the city. I'd be yeah, I'm just going to go out into the middle of the forest, in the middle of nowhere, not listen to any music so I can hear if any cars are coming, and then I'm just going to cook meth. And America's also really big. Here in Europe, it's, there's lots of people. It's quite densely populated. You're going to have to, go off the track to find some really far out of the way place. But in America, just go do Breaking Bad, go into the desert, go into the woods. If you're cooking crystal meth in the city, what's wrong with you? Check yourself before you wreck yourself. And also another tip, if you're like that thing is if your crime business isn't super high profit, what are you up to? And I don't mean shoplifting and stuff. That's different. I mean proper crime business, crystal meth cooking or gangs, like that. What if the Jamisons stumbled across such a place, or saw some sort of deal go down, or caught some gangsters burying a body? Any of those would be reason enough for a ruthless enough criminal to massacre them. Or hell, who's to say some opportunistic murderer didn't just spot a family wandering around the secluded woodland and decide to take their chance. The idea is that the family saw something they shouldn't have, or met someone they should have avoided, on their mountain walk. They then rush back down to the car with the killers in pursuit. Jumping inside, they start to pull out onto the dirt road, and just then someone bursts out from between the trees, pointing a gun at the windshield. The attacker, or attackers, then tells the family to step out of the car with their hands up. Seeing the briefcase inside, they force the couple to hand it over. They then have no choice but to comply. They search for weapons, and the killers confiscate Sherilyn's .22 caliber pistol before she could start blasting their toes off like before. That'd explain why it was never found at the house, the car, or the site of death. After that, they locked the car and led on a death march up the mountain side, snaking back and forth over tangled undergrowth and slippery rock faces. The kidnappers likely keep the parents in check by threatening their daughter. After walking for over an hour, maybe more, they're told to kneel down on a slope. Perhaps they were told that they'd be allowed to live if they played along, but in reality, the killers just knew it was easier to walk a man into the woods than to drag his body. That is super grim. A gun is placed at the back of Bobby's head. He's shot dead, falling face first into the ground. It's then the turn of Sherilyn Madison. Perhaps the lack of a bullet hole suggests they died by some other means. Maybe that's the case for Bobby too, seeing as they never found a bullet or an exit hole. I'm getting depressed considering the possibilities. Yeah, me too, Callum. This kind of what we were talking about, yeah, like, ha ha ha, Nazis, ha ha ha. Now it's like, oh yeah. But all of this really comes back to the fact that a family and a young kid were murdered. And it's like, I got a family and a young kid. It's just not stuff you like to think about, really, is it? So I'll just leave the rest of the speculation to you at home. You might want to have a few shots of something strong to hand if you plan on mulling it over for too long. Yes. And honestly, if like a good whiskey company ever wants to sponsor the Casual Criminalist, I'm your man. Obviously, I'm the host of the show. But you know, sponsorship. It's a chilling prospect and perhaps the most coherent theory yet, but prepare yourself, because things are about to get even sadder. Oh, brilliant. The most tragic theory of all. There's one last theory that needs to be addressed before I let you pass your verdict on the Jamison family disappearance. It revolves around the dismal atmosphere that hung over the family throughout the entirety of 2009. Oh no, they killed themselves, didn't they? The dad killed. There was one bullet hole in his skull, right? He killed the daughter, he killed his wife, and then he killed himself. That is super grim. But that's probably what this is going to be, right? As we've already seen, something was taking its toll on the psychology of Sherilyn and Bobby. By the time they disappeared, they were shadows of their former selves, skinny, paranoid, and exhausted. Something very dark was brewing under their roof, but it wasn't supernatural. I found one news article which reported on Sherilyn's mental state that year. Apparently her sister had passed unexpectedly 2 years before from an allergic reaction to a bee sting. This caused her to lock herself away from the world and lose herself in fantasies of witchcraft and demonic possession. In the house, Sheriff Beauchamp found a letter she had written writing about ending her life. They were certainly a family obsessed with death, he said. Bobby likewise seems to have slipped into a depressive slump. It really feels to me as if something was coming to a head here, and it did in September 2009. Less than 1 month before the disappearance, Sherilyn was hospitalized after attempting suicide. I think within all this talk of meth gangs and white supremacists, it's easy to lose sight of the dark clouds which are gathering over this family's lives. After finding the letter which Sherilyn wrote to Bobby, talking about how much she hated him, the police entertained the idea that she might be responsible for the deaths. If my speculation about the bullet in the head, that was in the father's head, right? So that wouldn't quite work out. Unless it was in her head? No, it was in the dad's head, right? Let's carry on. Nikki Chenault thinks differently, saying it was her form of therapy. She would write things down when they came into her mind, but then she would move on. She loved Bobby. But honestly, given how reclusive the couple were in those final weeks and months, how clearly troubled their mental states were, and how bizarre their behavior was as they loaded up the car, I struggle to shake the feeling that they knew they were all going to die that day. Friends and family outright deny the possibility, but when someone's mind is in such a low place and filled with bizarre beliefs, they might come to see this sort of thing as a kindness. But then I think, the dog. That little black and white ball of fur brings the whole idea into question, because let's imagine for a second that the parents, or at least one of them, were in the grasp of some dark ideas and planned on ending the life of their daughter. I don't believe for a second that they leave the family dog to starve to death in the car. Little Maisie would come along for that last trip with them too. Am I so, not attached to animals that I'd be like, I don't even want to think about it. Good Lord. This is such unpleasant. This is such a dark place. I don't even want to discuss this. Forget I said anything. Let's not talk about killing our families. By all accounts, the dog went everywhere with Madison. As heartbreaking as it is to consider, surely even the most desperate suicidal parent would want the dog by her side at the end. And we still don't have an explanation for the missing gun, unless there's some squirrel running around the forest strapped with a .22 caliber. The gun, it should have been found with the bodies. So make of this one what you will. Just like the rest, we're left chasing our tails, trying to mash those last jigsaw pieces into place when they just don't quite fit. Wow, so yeah. I mean, it's not the end of the episode today. There's a little bit more. But it's one of those ones where we don't know what happened. Well then, we're just left with speculation, aren't we? So now we've basically explored every nook and cranny of this case, covering the possibility of vengeful fathers, murderous KKK affiliates, and chance encounters with meth manufacturing gangsters. If you were hoping for closure, I'm sorry, but I've got none to offer today. None of the theories fit the evidence completely, which is exactly what Sheriff Beauchamp meant when he had all the leads that he could ever hope for, but no hope of solving the case. To quickly recap some of the issues within our network of speculation. If you think it was a drug deal, why was the kid there? And why wasn't the money gone? If you think Bobby's father or the KKK did it, why was nobody seen following them? If you think it was murder-suicide, where was Sherilyn's gun, and why was Maisie the dog left out? And if you think they were possessed by rooftop-dwelling demons, you're an idiot. Callum's words, not mine, but Callum and I, same page. Beyond that, I'm afraid I can't help you no further. This case, which began as the kind which happens every single day in America, spiraled out into one of the most perplexing mysteries that you're ever likely to find in true crime. In the end, I, like Bobby's mother, think they most likely just stumbled across the wrong person out there and paid with their lives. The odds look overwhelmingly like we'll never know who that person was. But on the off chance that you, yes, you sitting there at home, genuinely have the answer to the whole mystery, then you're encouraged to contact the Latimer County Sheriff's Office over in Oklahoma. If not for the family, do it for the thousands of listeners currently grinding their teeth in frustration. Or do it for the family. Dismembered appendices. Number 1. If you want an explanation for the huge wad of cash which doesn't include drugs, consider the fact that Sheriff Beauchamp discovered early on that the Jamison couple may well have been serial scammers. They launched 2 lawsuits after a car accident in 2005, planned on suing the Eufaula School District, and may have been playing up their financial woes for government help. I'm not mentioning this to shame them, only to explain that they apparently kept $32,000 under a mattress and not in the bank. Number 2. We briefly touched on a picture taken of Madison on that first walk up the hillside, and in other accounts it actually plays a big part of the case. News channels plastered the image on people's TVs, debating whether the little girl looked happy or scared, and speculating on whether the image was taken by her kidnapper. You could join them in that if you like, but all in all I think it was just overblown sensationalization. That's not the word, is it? It's right there in front of me. I can't even read it. Sensationalism. And we at Cash Crim hold ourselves to a higher standard. Yes, we do. Number 3. If you fancy following the kidnapping angle further, then consider the fact that Nikki Shenold thinks that she can actually see the culprit in that surveillance footage, which is available on YouTube. Most people say Bobby changes his shirt partway through, but Nikki is adamant that he gets inside the car wearing white, and a third individual in brown then approaches the car. You can go take a look for yourself and decide. And that is where we leave today's episode. Unsolved, unsorted, and grinding our teeth just a little bit. If you enjoyed it and you're watching on YouTube, this show is obviously both available on YouTube and as a podcast. Please leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you're listening as a podcast. It would be fantastic if you left us a review. It really does help. It gets the show in front of more people. I looked it up the other day. We got like 2,000 reviews or something, which blows my mind. Thank you everybody so much. And a 4.9 stars, by the way. This isn't some like 3.2 star Google review restaurant that you're going to avoid. This is a 4.9er. That's right. And I don't think we can get it up to 5, because if there's just one bad review, then you can't get there again, I guess. Anyway, enough about that. I appreciate everyone leaving reviews, and I love reading them, and I love that they're all so nice. So thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next episode.